if it wasn't discrimination. And you have the nerve, you have the nerve to sit there on your high horse and preach to these bottom-feeding dwellers who sit in the chat room, like Alliance Blog, who's been doing this for over a decade, still only got 2,000 followers. Yeah, I see you're a jabroni and a ham sandwich, and I don't want to hear from you ever again about what the NWA is supposed to do. This is what pro wrestling is supposed to be. This is what the NWA is supposed to be. No. You don't tell anyone what the NWA is supposed to be, and you certainly don't lecture me about what the NWA is supposed to be. I made the NWA.
Why are you excited to be here tonight?
Because I'm just excited.
Yeah. No other explanation. Now, I do believe, tell me the truth. Is it true that your dad has a ringside seat, but didn't get you guys ringside seats?
That is true, but it's because of his YouTube channel, okay? It's his YouTube, okay?
Her dad's an influencer. Let him go, guys. But your dad's awesome, right?
Yeah.
See, he's awesome! Yeah! Give it up!
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Poppy.
Here's the story. If I see Kevin Owens, or even someone who looks like Kevin Owens, I drop them on sight.
Welcome. It's party time!
So, what day is it today?
Tuesday?
Wrong! It's NWA Day.
They want NWA? Let's give them NWA.
I was thinking that it might be a good idea if you and I formed an alliance.
Let's get ready to rumble! Attention, everyone.
Welcome to the greatest wrestling program in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? Stop what you're doing and listen.
Okay, let's party.
It's the pre-party with J. Cal.
What is up? It's me, J. Cal, from the Alliance blog, and you are tuned in to the greatest NWA pre-show on the face of planet Earth and beyond, because I think it's the only pre-show on the face of the Earth and beyond. I'm J. Cal. This is the Pre-Party, a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com, your number one source for news and for information for the National Wrestling Alliance. And I gotta be honest, guys, I am not doing my best right now. I'm a little under the weather. I've been down and out for a few days now. I literally have not left my house in 2 days. I left the house today. I had to go to the bank. But outside of that, man, it's been a week. Now, I did do a couple of wrestling shows last week. You know where I went last week after last week's pre-party is I was at the Championship Wrestling from Hollywood television taping that took place in Irvine, California. And then also on Saturday, I went to GCW. And as always, I like to share what I do with on the road with you guys. So if you bear me just a second, I'll show you a little bit of what I saw on Tuesday. Yeah, that was fun. I had a lot more video that I filmed, but unfortunately that's on a different computer that I don't have in front of me right now. But hey, how about some stuff from GCW? You want to see Jimmy Lloyd versus Mance Warner? Matt Cardona was involved. Or what about this one? I think Starboy Charlie might be my favorite wrestler on the indies right now.
Hey, get your ass! Good fight!
The great thing about that is, and if you couldn't see, so that was John Gresham versus Masha Slamovich. Now, Masha Slamovich is not only the TNA Knockouts champion, but she's also the JCW World Champion. JCW is a branch of GCW. And in that match, what he was doing, Gresham, was he had the armbar on her, but he wasn't hitting forearms to her face. He was hitting forearm shots to her arm, trying to force her to tap out just to the armbar. I thought that was a brilliant strategy when it came to that matchup. And I don't normally like intergender matches, but Masha Slamovich really seems to excel in those matches. It's ironically enough, back in January, there was a mixed tag team match that I saw in Mexico where it was Gresham and his wife, Jordan Grace, before she debuted in the WWE, taking on the Beast, the formerly known as the Beast Montrose. What is he called now? I don't even know what he's called now. Black Taurus, formerly known as Black Taurus. Maybe he's called Beast Montrose now. And Masha Slamovich. So in some ways, this was kind of a rematch from that event because, you know, they Masha and Gresham had gotten together in that match. So a lot of interesting things to see in there. A lot of fun wrestling. And if you guys aren't watching the United Wrestling Network, Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, I know this is an NWA podcast. It's an NWA live stream, but I'm telling you, you're missing out on good quality wrestling if you're not watching the United Wrestling Network. I'm going to get to all of you guys' comments here in just a minute, but I do want to start saying hey to all my friends that are in the chat. Of course, Bobby Batito's here, Steve G, Sean Mega's here. Said, good evening. It's WCW Pro Power Day. Let's see. Jamming Music Man's here. Willie Bowen with his joke of the day. Tyrus has a law firm called Ben and Jerry's Ice Cream. The law firm of Ben and Jerry's. That's awesome. Steve G. No, Johnny Robbie did not. She was not at the GCW event. Vipress was there. Willie Bowen would appreciate that. Vipress has kind of adopted a new look. She's no longer like the goth. She kind of used to have this goth look to her. Now she's kind of more like a chola, which, I mean, I don't know, it's not a big difference, but still the same wrestler. Still looks great in the ring. Noob is in the house. What's up, Noob? And then Sean said, which show made you sick? So if I'm being honest, I don't think either show made me sick. We've had some wet weather here recently, and you know, when the climate changes and all that, like, it kind of messes you up a little bit. But I was feeling under the weather when I went to GCW, and then I felt a lot worse at GCW. Then I had some crazy migraine on Sunday, and it just carried over till Monday. And honestly, I didn't even go to work, which is rare for me. I almost always go to work. So that was a pretty big deal for me to stay home. But I'm feeling better now. Yeah, you know, it's hard not to get excited to come talk to you guys about wrestling, because obviously that's one of the things I'm passionate about. I love talking NWA. I love talking United Wrestling Network. Even on TikTok, about half an hour before we started this show, I was talking about the WWE, talking about Cody Rhodes, former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. And then, like, you know, when I go to these GCW shows, it's very interesting. Like Hammerstone was wrestling against Effie for the GCW World Title, and that's always kind of cool when you get to see, like, you know, I'm going to go see Hammerstone wrestle Silas Mason at the Crockett Cup, so it's kind of cool to see him in a different environment. And then I got to see who else was there. I get Matt Cardona was there. I mean, he's still technically NWA adjacent. I mean, he's a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He didn't really have a match, but he was there to be involved in storyline. And then you see people from TNA wrestling like Mance Warner and Masha Slamovich. And then sometimes you'll see WWE ID talents. And then, you know, like Arez, who is kind of like a freelancer. He did a lot of stuff with Lucha Libre AAA in the past, but he's been working with GCW quite regularly. So it's cool to see a lot of these guys. And it's, you know, and then you see championship wrestling from Hollywood, like Scorpio Sky, who's still under AEW contract, Brandon Cutler, who's been a part of ROH and AEW, Zicky Dice. I mean, well, he's not really with AEW, but formerly of TNA. And then you see guys like Ice Williams, who's a WWE ID, or Jordan Oasis. And you kind of get to see the future of pro wrestling. That's why I really recommend it. Like, even if you're not a big WWE fan, or if you're strictly just an NWA fan, if there is local independent wrestling in your area, you should definitely check it out, because you never know who you might see next. And with that being said, let's get to some of your comments. Ninja Mac. Yeah, Ninja Mac is, I've heard of him and I've seen some stuff, but I never have actually seen a match of his. So watching him and Starboy Charlie live was pretty awesome. And I've told you guys how much I'm a fan of the high flying cruiserweights. I know some of you call it flippy dippy, but I dig it. Starboy Charlie is phenomenal. And I was telling my buddy this, you know, when I used to play WWF No Mercy on the Nintendo 64, I would create a character, and every move that Starboy Charlie has is something I would have put on my creator wrestler. So I enjoy the heck out of him. He's fun to watch. Let's see. Steve GC said, isn't GCW Cardona's main hangout now? Cardona's all over the place. In fact, that was his first appearance in 4 months for GCW. And I think, you know, that's what he said anyways. I don't know if where else he's been lately, but I know that GCW is one of the places he goes, but he hasn't been there in 4 months. So that's saying something. Sean Mega said he saw Ninja Mac in Ring of Honor. Is Ninja Mac, for some reason I thought he was in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Am I getting somebody confused? You guys could explain that to me. And Vipress, yeah, Willie Bowen. Vipress is still doing a lot of dates here in SoCal. I've seen her in Mexico, or I should say Tijuana. I mean, that is Mexico, but I see Vipress doing a lot of dates with The Crash. I've seen her do dates with AAA when they're in town in Tijuana. And I've also seen Vipress with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, and Vipress with Game Changer Wrestling. And really, Vipress, I mean, she's a free agent. She's a freelance, so she'll go wherever, you know, someone books her. And she's really solid in the ring. Again, like, you know, hey, we're talking about the NWA and trying to grow its roster. Like, Vipress would be a person I'd pick up absolutely without hesitation. Ninja Mac was in Noah. Okay. I thought I saw like a Ninja Mac in New Japan, but I could have been mistaken. Thanks for that, Sean. I appreciate you, brother. So yeah, I'm a little watered down today. I don't have quite the energy I did in Alani, but I'm still feeling down. I should have done a W instead, but we're here. We're talking wrestling. And, I mean, look, there's a lot of cool stuff happening in the NWA, and the least of which is, or maybe the most of which, I don't know. The NWA has this territory system. What's up, Rick Del Santo? What's up, Unknown? I'm still live on TikTok as well right now. The NWA has a territory system, and in those territories, we have 2 promotions in Tennessee. We have a promotion in New Mexico, a promotion in Ohio, 2 promotions in Texas, a promotion in St. Louis, or Missouri, I guess I should say. And now, you know, they've had this promotion in Chicago for quite some time. The weird part of that is Billy Corgan says, this is my territory, but like he also owns the NWA. So it's very kind of weird. Like, why have the distinction of having it be a territory while he's also the owner of the company? But you know, they crowned a new champion. And first of all, that belt is so ugly. The NWA Chicago title is just ugly. But congratulations to Mario Pardua for becoming the new NWA Chicago champion. Obviously, Pardua has been a guy that's been around for the NWA for quite some time. He's been doing some. He had done a few tapings of Power, but he's kind of been a mainstay in Chicago. Going back to Billy's days with the pro wrestling, was it Revolution Pro? I think that's what it was called. He had a place on that card as well. So it's nice to see Billy, being loyal to some of these guys. They deserve it. And Pardue is a great talent. I'm not taking anything away from him, but that is such an ugly belt. And I'm pretty sure Billy designed it. So I'm not trying to rub salt in the wounds there, but God, that's such an ugly belt. Willie Bowen said, what happened to Rekka Tahaka? So Rekka Tahaka got hurt, right? She got hurt. And I don't exactly know what her timetable is for returning. Obviously, they've written her out a storyline because she was the quasi tag team partner to Princess Nieves, Tiffany Nieves, La Princesa. And, I will say this, Rekka Tahaka had some opportunities where she struggled in the matches that she did have with the NWA. Seeing her in Forney, Texas was kind of rough. And I'm not saying that she isn't ready for the NWA. I'm just saying she didn't have a good go. I know that they had offered her a deal. I don't know if that deal will be extended after she recovers from injury. I don't know, but I would like to see her. I'd like to see her come back. I think she number one, she has a great look. She has a bigger, larger than life personality. Something that I think the women's division kind of lacks. There's right now, the women's division, I feel like, is still struggling, and they have not been able to get ahead of, the departures. Ella Envy's gone. We lost Misa Kate last year, and of course, Ren Sinclair, Maddie Rankowski the year before. Seemingly the King Bees have left the company, and there's these gaps in the roster. So you have a TV title that still has never been defended on an episode of Power. I don't think the title's been defended at all. I could be mistaken. And then we look at the rest of the roster that the NWA is putting out, and of course, Natalia Markova, fantastic wrestler, great look, great everything, but they don't seem to have a place for her at the any higher on the card. I mean, she's basically working mid card. They put the tag titles on Kenzie Page and Big Mama, and I feel like that's a recipe for disaster. That tells me all I need to know of what the NWA thinks of its women's division when they're putting all the titles on two females. You need to stretch it out. And I guess at hard times we see a change in the tag titles and all that, but that's neither here nor there. Sean Mega says the women's division only needs one title, no TV or tag titles. Sean, it's kind of like putting the toothpaste back in the tube. Once it's been, pushed out, it's just kind of out. How do you make the TV title disappear? How do you make the tag titles disappear? Instead of getting rid of them, I think that they should maximize the visibility of them. I could see them getting rid of the TV title. I could see that being vacated and then not filled. But the tag titles, I don't think you could just push those back push them away. I think at this point, the NWA women's tag team titles just need more stiffer competition. Let's see. Roswell says the women's TV belt looks just like the Texas belt and the Chicago belt. The women's TV just has a different plate cuts. My belt looks better. It does look better, Roswell, but you took some time with it, and you kind of used a more modern, it's not current, but a more modern look for your belt. That's a great looking belt, and I wish the NWA would have a better job of designing its titles. Can't you call up Dan the belt guy? Doesn't he make some pretty amazing title belts? I wish they'd go use him for their designs, because these ones, oof. Noob says Markova's making her debut at KFP in October. Seems like she's getting booked like crazy this year, and this weekend she's going to be the next NWA New Mexico Women's Champion. Is she just belt collecting now? Is she like Thanos picking up all the women's titles? I don't hate it. they've announced who Markova will be facing at Crockett Cup, and unfortunately, it's not a title match, which is seemingly disappointing. And I would love to see that change, but we'll see how that goes. Let's see. The great He Says here. He Says my guy. And I say this all the time whenever I see him in the chat. The He Said inspired me to do all this. I hope you guys can appreciate that. Like the wrestling title histories and the fact that he was really the only one keeping track of what was happening in the NWA. Like he did a better job of covering the NWA than what the NWA did covering the NWA. And we're talking about the early 2000s. And I'm sure He Said was around even before that. But what he was doing with tracking the title histories and keeping that history alive is what inspired me to do alliance-wrestling.com. That, and of course, the SoCal Uncensored. My idea was to try to be a combination of the both. And He Says been a good friend ever since. And I appreciate you, He Says. So thanks for checking us out. Steve G says, yeah, it's really sad. NWA, MW, UWN all don't care about female wrestling. What do you mean MW, Steve G? Is that MLW, did you mean? Yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard because AEW and WWE have a tendency to sign up some of the top women. So does, you'll see a lot of great talents show up in TNA wrestling as well. So it's like, I think, Memphis wrestling. Oh, okay. It's hard to put a lot of time, effort, and energy into a division where it's hard to keep it up. And there are good talents out there, but like you also have to think of wrestling as a business too. And what's going to put more butts in the seats? Like if United Wrestling Network were to book Joe Hendry, do you think they could sell out the Irvine Improv? I think they could, but you know what? It would cost them way more money than he would bring in for them. So with that being said, like how many more butts in the seats would, let's say Gigi Dolan, how many more butts in the seats will she put in versus how much she would ask for? And I think she's a phenomenal talent. I think there's a lot of, I think Bobby even said, I'd like to see Priscilla Kelly challenge for the NWA Women's World Championship again, like she did in 2020 against Thunder Rosa. And I think she'd be a perfect fit for the NWA. But I could see her probably landing in either TNA Wrestling or MLW. But yeah, she'd be great. Priscilla Kelly, formerly known as Gigi Dolan. I don't see her going to AEW for obvious reasons, but who knows? Anything could happen. Dan the Belt Guy, the NWA needs help. Yeah, put the bat signal in the air and say, hey, Dan, we need help. These titles are rough, bro. They're really, really rough. Our friend Dad Nerd Dude on TikTok says Natty has been murdering it. Like, I can't wait to see what Natty does in the NWA. I'm very excited to see what's going to happen next with her because Natty is she's going to be challenging for the Burke in the National Wrestling Alliance. And I see some comments going over here that, it's really going to set something up. If Natty wins that belt, I think the landscape of pro wrestling will forever be changed by that. And what I mean is she's a WWE contracted wrestler, not TNA, WWE. And although we have seen WWE talents appear in the NWA years and years ago, this is the first time in like 20 years, maybe even 30 years, that we've seen a WWE wrestler appear in the NWA ring. So for me, it's like, this is a big deal. Let's not even forget the fact that Cody Rhodes, although he was a free agent completely unrelated to the WWE at the time, is a former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Let's also not forget that Abyss and Adam Pearce and Nick Aldis, all of them are former NWA World Champions. So all of them have kind of that connection to this modern day NWA. And I'm not saying that, Nick Aldis left on the best of terms with Billy Corgan, but if there's money to be made, TKO and the NWA, I'm sure there's something that can be worked out. And if it benefits the National Wrestling Alliance and keeps some of the talent on the WWE roster excited, I mean, it's a win-win situation. It could also be used as a scouting opportunity. Chelsea Green was very positive and had high remarks about Kenzie Page and said that she would be the next person to kind of break into the NXT roster. Now, obviously, that didn't happen immediately, but that doesn't mean it won't happen. and that doesn't mean it couldn't happen. And I really feel like that's a big opportunity for them. The Dadder dude says, I want her versus Slamovich. That would be another banger of a match. I just saw Slamovich versus John Gresham this past weekend at GCW, and it was pretty awesome. Spider Carnage says, it's crazy to think Natty's been here since 2007 and Cora J just let go after 2 or 3 years. And Cora J, I really, that one puzzles me because she has a great look. She's a good looking girl. She can go in the ring and she has a good persona. I can see her jumping to AEW very easily, but who knows? Our boy Noob says Markova should be a main event star. She's the top star of the company, and she's featured like crazy, not only on NWA TV, but also the territories in the independent scene. Yeah, and I don't have a problem with putting Markova over Noob. I agree with you, but I just right now is not the right time if they're going to do something long term with Natty. Even if it's short term with Natty, I'm okay with Markova taking a back seat. I mean, we still have a couple more months to the anniversary show. And the thing is, the Crockett Cup is the secondary big event of the year. The anniversary show has always been the premier event for the National Wrestling Alliance. I think that, Crockett Cup is just the launch point, and I think we'll see a much bigger show for the anniversary show, the 77th. I'm wearing the shirt for 76, but I think 77 is going to be another level. Sean Mega says Reality of Wrestling does a great job with women's wrestling, and they're using a lot of the talents that we just talked about. Tiffany Nieves and some of the what's her name? I can't think of her name right now. Hollywood Haley J, I know, has made appearances there, and I like that what ROW is doing. UWN has so many female stars available in California. UWN should have no problem with that. David and I disputed that Sunday. What it is. So first and foremost, Dave does not book the show. He does not book the talents. He produces the show. The bookers of the show are Zicky Dice and Peter Hernandez, a.k.a. What's his shoot? Damn, I forgot his name. Peter Avalon. How did I forget that? And they're the ones that book the show. And they use Viperous. They reuse Alex Gracia, they've used Brittany Brooks, and they're, anchored by Big Mama. And, Big Mama literally has to jump on a plane to get out here. That's how much they think of her work. So, I've pushed for them to use Rays. I've pushed for them to use other female talents. I'm just a fan, right? I have a podcast and I'm a fan, but, they're going to do what they're going to do. I would like for them to use Johnny Robbie. I think she's a fantastic worker. There's a lot of women out here that I think would be equally good inside of the United Wrestling Network. They're just not doing it. And you can't force them. Yeah, Hammerstone will be facing Silas Mason, and I think that's going to be a fun matchup for sure. Watching him this past weekend against Effie, there's a lot of power there. And Effie does not match the strength of Hammerstone, but I don't know. Maybe our boy Silas Mason can. If the NWA can keep up to date with monthly tapings, it would help the storyline because help the storylines become relevant. It wouldn't be a guessing game when you go to see a live show and nothing matches up with what's on Power. Yeah, Scooby, those were Scooby's words, Dave Scooby. It's unfortunate, like the NWA, if they could just cut down the TV tape time, like Championship Wrestling from Hollywood has a 4-week turnaround. And they don't need the 4 weeks. That's just they give themselves a buffer in case something happens where they don't have more material. The NWA could do a 5-week turnaround, and it would still be relatively fresh content. And, you could pick and choose which matches that you put to the front of the show by putting Tom Latimer. If Tom Latimer and Rhino are the main event for Crockett Cup, which I hope they aren't, if that's the last match that we see on those tapings, like there's such a disconnect between Rhino appearing at Hard Times 5. It doesn't make sense. They need to cut that time down, and I don't know how you can do that. I don't know what you can say to make that happen, but it would be a blessing for the NWA if they could do that. And and I know that they have tons of matches already filmed and stuff ready to go. I hate to say it, but maybe just make those YouTube exclusive matches. Pump them out that way. Because that, like, look, we haven't even got to Hard Times yet, and then we're 2 weeks away from Crockett Cup. And I don't think they've taped anything in between. I don't think they filmed anything at the Grilled Cheese Expo in Sacramento. I don't think they have filmed any more matches that go in between. So I think it's going to be Hard Times and then Crockett Cup. But still, like, there's like 4 to 5 weeks of TV at Crockett Cup, and then there's probably 4 to 5 weeks of Hard Times. So, like, it was like, maybe 10 weeks of television before we get to the finals of Crockett Cup and the main events. So it's a bad situation to be in. I know I'm in the minority, but I don't want to see Natty's NWA champion. Steve, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on that. I'm curious. Bobby says, imagine if Hammerstone crosses paths with the winner of Tom Latimer versus Rhino for the World Heavyweight Championship at the Crockett Cup. You could set up a match for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling or the next NWA pay-per-view. Bobby, you're killing it. You're right on. I agree. Tom is going to let's see, who does Tom face this week? I know that Tom has some matches scheduled. I think he already faced Heath Slater. Oh, yeah, he faces this weekend, Saturday, Tom Latimer versus Stu Grayson at Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So, I mean, he's got a big match ahead of himself this weekend. And then, if he's successful, if he defeats Stu Grayson, then he gets Rhino the following week. So there's been a very busy month for our pal Tom Latimer. He had to face Silas Young. He had to face Heath, Axolotl Kids on the TikTok. What's up? Yo, Axolotl Kid. Axolotl Kid's my kid. Did you see the promo between Tiffany Nieves and Charmel a few days ago? That was classic. No, I haven't watched a lot of reality wrestling, and it's not that I don't want to, because I have friends that work there. Danny Limelight's a regular for there. Will All Day works there. There's a lot of cool things happening at reality wrestling. I haven't prioritized that. So no, I missed the confrontation between Charmel and Tiffany Nieves, but I've heard it was pretty epic. I'll have to wait and see to watch it though, I guess. This Crockett Cup has the most anticipation since the Aldous versus Skrull match that never happened. I'm excited like I was for Starrcade back in the day. Exactly. Right, Roz? Right? Like this is the I really feel like this could be a launching point. This could be the launching point for the NWA. Cody came in and wrestled Nick Aldis for the world title All In. And the lead to All In really pushed the NWA way past where it should have been. And they had the eyeballs, and then they did the 70th anniversary show, then they did the Crockett Cup, and then they brought on Power, and it was electric. And people were excited about that. And that is TikTok telling me I need to come back to TikTok to make sure that it doesn't close on me. Sorry about that. And so I feel like this is the time right now. Like, people are talking about it. Hammerstone appearing on the card. I know Hammerstone's stock has fallen recently, but he's out there working his ass off to get himself relevant again. And matches against Effie, matches against Silas Mason are going to get him back on the radar for either AEW, WWE, hell, maybe even TNA, maybe a return to MLW. But I honestly feel like he has so much potential, and it hasn't even been realized yet. Roswell says, I don't even want to watch Power right now. I want to see what's going on. I want to see them talking about what's going on now, not 2 months ago. What's up, Mittoon? Mitt. I'm sorry. That's what we agreed to call you, is Mitt. What's up, Mitt? Marathon, all the back episodes and get up to date. I don't hate that, right? Like I said, they got to jettison some of the old content. And even if it's just YouTube exclusive matches, I'm fine with that, because we do need to get to Crockett Cup. I mean, shoot, we need to get to Hard Times 5 just to even set up Crockett Cup properly. Like, a lot of things happen at Hard Times. We know for a fact that that's where Rhino makes his challenge to Tom Latimer. They need to get there, and they need to get there like ASAP, because we're 2 weeks away from the Crockett Cup, and we're like 10 weeks away from that on broadcast on X. So Bobby says, I'll definitely check out Tom Latimer versus Stu Grayson this week on Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling for the NWA World Championship. I think it's going to be a good match. Mitt says, never mind, recovering from a herniated disc. Jeez, Mitt. I said on TikTok, if people called me Kevin Owens, I was going to crash out, but I really am not. Noob says, Steve G, as a WWE fan, I agree with you. I don't want to see Natty as NWA Women's Champion. I mean, I hear you guys, and that's cool, man. I think that's, I can understand that from a, especially from an NWA pride point, but I honestly feel like if your hopes and dreams are that the NWA gets bigger and gets to be seen by more people, you do that by incorporating the biggest names you can to get more people to watch the product. We know for a fact, if Kenzie Page wins, it's a great feather in the cap for Kenzie Page, but watch what happens if Natty wins. The dirt sheets are going to cover it. Mike Johnson's going to talk about it. Fightful Select will talk about it. Everyone will talk about it, and it'll bring more eyeballs to what they're doing on X. Now, the shitty part about all that is it'll be at least 10 weeks before it makes to TV, right? So, again, that's it, kind of there's two parts here, and I keep saying it. It would really be smart for Billy Corgan to stream this live, right? Maybe not even the whole show. Maybe they only stream the title matches, right? And not the Crockett Cup matches. Maybe they just do the title matches, do an hour special on YouTube and do it for free. And I know it's like, well, that's counterproductive, but you got to strike while the iron is hot. Mitt, you don't like the AAA deal? I like it, but I'll talk to you later about that, because right now I want to talk specifically about the NWA. Willie says, what do you think about Maple Leaf should be affiliated with the NWA? I mean, in some ways, they kind of are. Like, they're NWA adjacent right now. They've booked, this will make the second NWA title match. So they've been doing Maple Leaf Pro for, like, I think they have had total 6 events with world champion on at least 2 of those 4 events already. And he's slated to be a part of the 5th. I don't know if he's going to be on the 6th event. They're basically NWA adjacent already. And again, I don't know if that is Scott D'Amore booking, Tom Latimer, his friend from TNA, or if that's Scott D'Amore booking the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. It's a slippery slope. And I know, like, how do you tell what's what? If Tom Latimer loses the 10 pounds of gold to EC3 or Rhino or somebody else, would they still be booked by Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling? Now, they advertise it as bringing in the 10 pounds of gold. Like I just saw on Twitter earlier today from Maple Leaf Pro. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Of course, Twitter machine is going slow. Let's see. Let's see. Of course, I can't find it now. Here it is. It's time to bring the 10 pounds of gold back to Canada, Quebec. Studos Grayson has the honor of competing for the World's Heavyweight Championship this Saturday against reigning title holder Tom Latimer. They're booking it as a big deal. And of course, in the history, Maple Leaf Pro historically did feature the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion. So it's only fitting that they continue to partner with the NWA currently. But I don't know if that makes them, a member, an affiliate, an associate, or just somebody that has a good working relationship with them. Noob says Rhino is going to make his AEW debut just to get ready for his match against Tom Latimer. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think Rhino was offered a deal with the NWA. I think he was just offered this match. And if it was just this match, then, he's got to still provide for his family. So him working for AEW, I don't have a problem with that. But if he does win the World's Heavyweight Championship, all bets are off. What do we do then? If Rhino takes the 10 pounds of gold, I mean, then what happens? That could be a very problematic situation. And then, at that point, with everything that the WWE is doing, maybe some fences should be mended between AEW and the NWA. Maybe something could be worked out there, because it's wild to me to think that the wealth of NWA talent isn't even seen outside of the NWA, except for some smaller independent shows. And a guy like Tom Latimer, I mean, he fits the poster of almost any wrestling event. You put Tom Latimer on your poster and he looks like a superstar. And if you put Silas Mason on a poster for any wrestling event, he looks like a top guy. I don't understand how the NWA has not been able to secure a better a better relationship with some of the other wrestling companies out there. I feel like they certainly should. Bobby says, would you bring in Kaden Carter and Katana Chance since they're a women's tag team and since the NWA needs more fresh women tag team? Yeah, I mean, Bobby, absolutely. It's just, can the NWA afford them? You know what I mean? Like, bringing in Natty Neidhart's a big deal for the NWA. Now you're talking about bringing in two talents recently released from the WWE. You know, can Billy afford to pay Kaden Carter and Katana Chance? I mean, sure, absolutely. This would be smart. If Billy was Tony Khan and had unlimited funds, then absolutely. But, you know, I think even Billy would tell you he's not made of money. He makes money, but he's not made of money. But the NWA definitely needs more women's tag team, just like Willie Bowen said. Should they air the Natty match live on YouTube on the WWE page? Oh, God, dude. Sean, that's brilliant, honestly. You know, like, think about it this way. Yeah, I mean, look, okay. I'm stuttering over myself because, yes, if they put that match on the WWE YouTube, the frequency would be low for WWE fans, right? Like, most WWE fans aren't going to care about Natty Neidhart wrestling for the Burke, right? But the amount of NWA fans would be so excited. And those WWE fans that care about it might be turned on to watching the NWA based on that matchup alone. Yeah, I think that's a hell of an idea, Sean. I think that's a brilliant idea. And if they don't air it on the WWE YouTube channel, they certainly should air it on the NWA YouTube channel almost immediately. Because I think that match has more opportunity to gain eyeballs than even Rhino and Tom Latimer. I really do. The NWA National Heavyweight Championship is not on the line yet. I'm campaigning to utilize the territory system correctly and give Tyler Shoop a shoot at Mims. Yeah, I mean, I like Tyler Shoop, and I think he would make a great challenge for the title. But, you know, that's the thing. The Crockett Cup doesn't need to feature all the titles. That's the thing. It's supposed to be a tag team tournament. It's supposed to be highlighted by the best tag teams in the world. They've opted to feature more single matches this year than tag matches, and I guess I'm okay with that. But I mean, seeing Mims defend the title, like, I feel like he's also getting a raw deal. I don't think Mims is getting enough play on TV. I don't think he's getting enough opportunity to showcase the 10 pounds of, the national title. And I just wanted to show off my AT-AT a little bit. There it is. The second time that the NWA World Championship has been defended on Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Yeah, but Tom has had, like, I think this will be his third match there. He teamed with Matt Cardona the last time that he wrestled. He wrestled against Baron Corbin, and then I think Baron Corbin teamed up with I want to say he teamed up with Billy Gunn against Cardona and Latimer. I think that was the match. Willie Bowen says he wants to see Brian Cage in the NWA. Yeah, I think so. I wouldn't mind having Brian Cage in the NWA, but he's got to get out of that AEW contract first, and I don't think that's going to happen. Chris Shoemaker, our friend on TikTok, says, AAA, I'll give it a look as a WWE fan. You can thank all the Toxica TikToks for that. Yeah, there's some I don't think enough people realize how some of those ladies look in AAA. I mean, they're wearing masks, but easy on the eyes. Unpopular opinion, Tom's reign has been better than EC3, quality over quantity. The only thing that I think EC3 has over Tom at this point is that EC3 traveled more with the title. Like, I don't think either champion has been booked particularly well by the NWA. I just don't. But Tom, you know, having these defenses in Maple Leaf Pro certainly elevate his stock. His last month has been very, very nice. Like the Squared Circle Expo, the Insane Wrestling Revolution, both those shows have been very, very positive for Tom Latimer's title reign. But you got to remember, EC3 had that defense in All Japan Pro Wrestling, and that's a huge feather in the cap. Not only that, but he took the NWA World's Heavyweight title to our friend Pole Jump. You remember Pole Jump, Sean Mega? He defended the title in Australia. That's a huge deal too. And you can't, you know, both of them took the title to the UK. Both of them had title defenses in Canada. Both of them defended the title in California. And I do feel like the EC3 did more of the smaller promotions, where like I wish that the NWA were able to get EC3 as world champion in other bigger venues. Neither one of them has done particularly a lot for the territories. You know, yeah, we had EC3 defend an Exodus Pro, but that's like a no-brainer. Like that's easy. He owns the promotion. Of course he's going to defend the title there. I haven't seen the world heavyweight champion do a lot of title defenses in the territory system since Nick Aldis. And even then that wasn't really territories, just promotions affiliated with the NWA. So that being said, yeah, both of them, I think, lose points because of the territories, but both of them gain points for different reasons. Of course, the All Japan deal was huge for EC3, and Maple Leaf Pro has done a lot for Tom. So I like both of that. I don't know if AEW wants Rhino. I think they're just going to have Rhino. And I don't mean that to be sounding disrespectful. I think he's going to do some ROH stuff with them. Or maybe he is doing some AEW stuff. You got to remember, Rhino is also a friend of Don Callis and Christian and Edge. So it doesn't surprise me, right? It doesn't surprise me that he's got an opportunity with AEW. But, you know, he's also not the prime wrestler he used to be. Willie Bowen says, bring in Vicky Lynn McCoy to the NWA. Like that, and that's more of that WoW talent. And I'll get to some of that here in just a minute. I got to get to it soon. Giselle Shaw versus Kylie Ray at Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling for the first ever Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling Canadian Championship. Look, I think that title was built for Giselle Shaw. No disrespect intended to Kylie Ray, but you know the relationship that Giselle Shaw has with Scott D'Amore. I mean, I think that's kind of a done deal. And besides, Kylie Ray is a WWE ID talent, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happens next. And I don't hate it either. Man, you guys are talking. Dave Scooby says Archer and Cage in AEW, the Murder Machine, scary, good tag team. Lance Archer, former two-time NWA World Tag Team Champion. Nothing but respect for that guy. And of course, Brian Cage is amazing. You know, Brian Cage, unfortunately, this would be the best time for him to have been in the WWE with Lucha Libre AAA. He would have been perfect for that company right now. He had some history with AAA in the past, but I could see them putting him in a big position with AAA if he was in the WWE. Willie Bowen says Jeremiah Plunkett should contend for the World Heavyweight Championship. Absolutely. I feel like that title is supposed to be the king of the territories, right? Like that's kind of what I feel that belt is supposed to be. I'd like to see it be elevated. I'd like to see it more on Power. But again, they have a national title that you can't even get on TV enough. You got TV titles that we can't see on TV enough. So I'm not going to hold my breath. Now, what Willie said earlier about Vicky Lynn McCoy and the WoW roster. I mean, we've already seen in the past year Santana Garrett show up back at the NWA. She was at the 77th anniversary show. 76th anniversary show. We've seen Hollywood Haley J make her appearance in the NWA. As a, you know, she's currently an active member of the WoW roster. But I do believe at one point, oh man, I can't forget it. I can't remember her name, but another talent had ties to Women of Wrestling, has also wrestled for the NWA. But I think, you know, adding all that up, we have coming up, gosh, now I forgot her name. Rossi. Why can't I think of her name? Give me a second. It'll come to me. She's wrestling tonight. We have the debut of Valentina Rossi, who is a member of the Alliance and WoW Wrestling. You know, no affiliation, although Reyes, a.k.a. Reina Del Rey, is a big part of the Alliance in WoW, and she's a big part of the Alliance in my heart. I enjoy the fact that they share that we share the same name as the faction in WoW. But Valentina Rossi will make her debut in this match against La Rosa Negra and Kelsey Heather. I think Kelsey Heather's also making her debut as well. And if not, I could be mistaken. But, you know, this is testing the waters, right? Like, this is the fourth talent from WoW to appear in NWA Power. And I feel like Steve G, yeah, Rekka. Absolutely. I totally forgot about Rekka. And then Bobby Petito says Jasmine Allure. Okay, so even more. And then the Tonga twins are scheduled to be a part of Crockett Cup. So multiple WoW talents have now appeared for the NWA or will appear for the NWA. And I think this is kind of cool. We've all been shouting at it, and it hasn't happened yet, right? But we know that Valentina Rossi is still very much an active part of the Valentina Rossi still very much an active part of Women of Wrestling. We know that Hollywood Haley J is still very much an active part of Women of Wrestling. We also know that Santana Garrett, who it's been a while, but Santana Garrett is also a very important part of the WoW roster. So all that being said, again, we're talking about Crockett Cup and how this is a big show, and maybe it's the launching point for something bigger. Maybe at the 77th anniversary show, we get a cross promotion match between WoW and the NWA. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but woo doggy, wouldn't that be amazing? Wouldn't that be? I don't know. I think it'd be cool. What if the NWA did another empowered pay-per-view, and this time it was WoW versus the women of the NWA? That would be pretty dynamic. I know the NWA is not doing pay-per-views anymore, but what if they did a signature live event of an empowered event that featured talents from WoW and the NWA? I think that would be really, really cool. I don't know if you could pull that off in this day and age. And of course, there's a ton of ego involved. William Patrick Corgan and Dave McClain, it's not like they're going to see eye to eye on everything, but I think it would be really, really interesting if they did that. I think it would only benefit both rosters. David Valentine with his fake breaking news. Joe Galli acquires the NWA from Billy Corgan for an undisclosed amount of money. How do y'all think Joe is going to do as the new owner promoter? Joe Galli would definitely need some help. The same problems that are arising from Billy, I think Joe would face too. And Joe hasn't really as far as I know, Joe Galli has never been a lead creative. He's mostly been just ancillary, talent relations, and really for Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, his main responsibility was working as commentator. In the NWA, he has a lot more responsibilities. Steve G says the NWA doesn't even have enough talent to go against WoW. That's fair, right? That's fair. But I mean, you could have some matches, right? You could have Big Mama, you could have the Page sisters, you could have Tiffany Nieves, you have Natalia Markova. I mean, then you could have a few dozen matches. You get a few half dozen matches. You could have 10 matches. I think we could pull 10 matches out of it. I don't know, maybe. Bobby says, how about some WoW women's wrestlers in the Burke Invitational Gauntlet match? See, Bobby, now you're thinking, Bobby. Bobby, I like the way you think, my friend. Yes, that would make a lot of sense. We saw it already. Santana Garrett was there. I don't think it would hurt anyone to bring her back in for that. Let's see. Big Mama versus Reina Del Rey or Tormenta. Hell, let's do a triple threat match. Big Mama and Reina Del Rey had faced off before years ago in Southern California, and I wouldn't hate to see it again. I don't know why I'm getting killed here on TikTok. They keep telling me to reconnect. But I'm here, so whatever. And then Noob says, a lot of fans do want to see Natty versus Natalya. That's an interesting match for both the WWE and the NWA fans as a dream match. Hey, maybe that's what we get for 77, Noob. I mean, look, y'all hate my idea of putting the belt on on Natty Neidhart, but what if that's to set up Natalya versus Natty at 77? I think you'd think twice about it then. I think you'd like it then. I bet you would, Noob. But you would. Bobby's like to see Penelope Pink in the NWA ring. Hey, the person I want to see most is my good friend Reyes, a.k.a. Reina Del Rey. I would love to see Reina Del Rey in an NWA ring. And I think a whole WoW invasion would be interesting. I don't know how it gets booked. I don't know if it even makes sense for either company, but I think it'd be interesting. And the whole thing that I keep saying this week after week, the NWA doesn't have a TV show. They're not beholden to any wrestling company right now. It's the NWA versus the world. And if the NWA was smart, they'd get some names to get people interested, to get people to tune in. There's an entire fan base for women of wrestling. That what if you could grab some of those eyeballs to bring to the NWA? It'd be something as simple as bringing the Alliance to feud with the Page sisters, right? The Page sisters and Big Mama. That's as simple. That's all it takes to get some more wow eyeballs under the product. Having Natty Neidhart come in and challenge for the World Women's title, that's bringing eyeballs from the WWE to the NWA. I'm not saying every WWE fan is going to tune in to X to see that match, but I'm saying there's some of them that will. And that's going to boost those numbers up. And that's what the NWA needs. They need eyeballs. They need engagement. They need people to care. They need people to care. I do believe Rhino and Latimer is going to have a lot of local in-house attention. I know that there's going to be a lot of fans in that ECW arena excited to see Rhino in the world title match. But at the end of the day, they need eyeballs to care. That's it. Where's Kyla Rossi? NWA bring her back. I think right now Rossi is I think she's pregnant. I could be wrong. I think she's currently with child. Markova versus Abilene. Abilene's a former NWA Women's World Champion too. Don't forget, that's Barbie Hayden, don't you know? Wouldn't hate that either. And that'd be a great title match. One that Markova wouldn't necessarily have to win to be impactful. See, this is where we can fantasy book, and it would make sense for Dave McClain. Like, oh yeah, put Abilene over Markova, and that's a huge, big win for WoW. Or you put Markova over, and you just created a new star for WoW. Either way, I don't think either thing could hurt. I think it'd be good for both companies. But anyways, as we're getting closer to the end of the show, we should probably talk about a few more of the matches. We did talk about the new NWA Chicago champion, Mario Pardua. We did talk about the debuting Valentina Rossi, who will be a part of the triple threat match with La Rosa Negra and Kelsey Heather. Also on the card, we get a look at the tag team, The Lost. They will be in the Crockett Cup as they take on the wily veterans of the NWA Mid-American Champion Jeremiah Plunkett and Joe Ocasio. Now, Joe Ocasio has spent more time with the NWA territories, especially in the Northeast, but he will make his return to the Power roster, teaming with the Mid-American Champion Jeremiah Plunkett. Now, we've seen a lot of Plunkett this year on Power in backstage segments, not much in the ring. So I'm excited to see JP step back into the ring for the NWA. If you haven't seen JP in a while, man, he has gotten in some good shape. I got to see him team with Alex Taylor a couple weeks ago at the Squared Circle Expo, and they looked very, very good. And I'm excited to see JP back on that Power roster. And then to wrap this week's Power Up, we get the conclusion of the soap opera drama of the fiance of Kenzie Page Hunter taking on Bryan Idol. This whole fiasco has been so terribly booked in storyline wise. I mean, they put Markova in a match with Hunter because Kylie couldn't wrestle and because Idol couldn't wrestle. So they did a man's intergender match, if you will. And it was just whatever. Of course, Markova was going to win. She should win. Markova was pretty awesome. And Hunter is still very green. He's still wet behind the ears. And then you put them in a match where Markova is obviously the well-known superstar and Hunter's kind of just known as Kenzie's boyfriend, Kenzie's fiance, whatever. And then Idol comes to the Page home, the Henry home, and talks shit to Hunter. Hey, you took liberty, which is all that was dumb anyways. And Idol's terrible as an actor. But now you've got Bryan Idol, who's like a legit 6'3", 6'4", legit 250 pounds, 270 pounds, big guy, taking on Hunter, who's probably like 5'11" and 180 pounds, like soaking wet. It's going to be a mismatch, and I'm sure Hunter will have some surprises in that match, but I don't know who that's booked for. It wasn't me. Willie Bone with some more of the fantasy booking. He's saying Chainsaw versus Maxine Paler. I think Paler would kill Chainsaw. It's simple as that. And then Chris Drummond, our pal, says, Jay, with the rumors of Shimmer returning, should WPC let the NWA champs work those shows? I have not heard about Shimmer returning. Is Dave Prazrick? I don't know how to say it. Is he coming back too? Is it his Shimmer, or is this some sort of ROH offshoot? What's going on? And absolutely, he should let the NWA champs work there. Absolutely. Like, there shouldn't be a limitation on where the women NWA champions work, outside of the AEW, TNA, and the WWE, unless there's some sort of formal agreement. Like, yeah, let them work anywhere. It doesn't hurt the NWA. It just creates more visibility. Right now, they don't need exclusivity. They need visibility. They need people to see them. And that's what's holding them back right now. Noob says the storyline is going to lead up to something between Markova and Kenzie Page at the anniversary show. I don't hate that either. Like, look, I honestly was kind of surprised that it wasn't going to be Natalya and Natalie versus the Page sisters. But I think you want to do a title match because, again, as much as you guys want that, I feel like the big match here, the one that's going to create the most attention for the NWA is Natty Neidhart and Kenzie Page. And again, if Kenzie were to win the title, I think that's going to be it. I think that job mission accomplished, But anyways, I think that's a good place to stop for today. I think we're going to wrap it up right here. Of course, Power starts in about 2 minutes over on X. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. Of course, we'll be back on Thursday. The Alliance guys, which will be myself, Rick Del Santo, Devin Dowling, and Jaden will be here to talk about this week's Power and all the matches that are leading up to Crockett Cup. And of course, the other Alliance guys normally air on Sunday. I want to give you a little preemptive warning. They'll be back on Monday because this Sunday is Mother's Day. So make sure you get your mother something nice. Don't forget your mother on Mother's Day. And that's going to do it for us here at the pre-party. Until next time, we will see you at, if I have the video ready, at the matches. Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. before NWA Power. You can find us on social media at The Alliance Blog. And until next time, we are The Alliance.